As a coach, I always want to have this stimulus, this passion, this desire. I always want to do things that are important, things that one has to seek. Okay, I may have won yesterday, but that was yesterday. I want to win today, tomorrow.
Throughout his career, Giovanni Trappattoni's mindset has been geared towards the pursuit of one single goal: victory.
He wasn't simply a great coach at one club for just 5 years. A lot of people can do that. Instead, he was a great coach at several clubs and in various places.
Winning league titles in 4 different countries and all 3 major UEFA competitions has earned him a special place in the game.
Wherever he has been in Europe, he has always shown himself to be an important person, an important manager.
Trappattoni is unique. He is very special.
He is one of the greatest managers of all time, especially when you look at what he has won, the places he has managed in, his methods, and his interpretation of the world of football, and how he interprets the game now.
I'm always seeking to get the best out of myself and do the best I can possibly do. I am never happy if I don't achieve perfection.
A manager doesn't exist in Italy like in other countries. We just have a coach, and he's always been a coach who coaches. He wants to teach football to his players. In that way, he's like a professor of the game.
Details matter to Giovanni Trappattoni, the small factors that can mean the difference between winning and losing. And for a man who is as much teacher as coach, passing on the right message is an essential part of the job.
He wouldn't just say, go and train or go and learn this or that. He'd take you aside and say, come here, we're going to learn this.
The change in mentality was incredible.
He's a progressive coach who is open to change and understands people. This is his strength.
There are many tiny details that can help you get a goal. I've always liked telling the players that either this or that can help you score. And as a coach, that gives you so much satisfaction. Like when I said, shoot low from a free kick, as I knew that the opposition wall would jump. And because of my instructions, Platini would score. Yet it was my idea, and that's very important. The first important period of my career was when I joined AC Milan. I was playing for the youth team, and coming from where I came from, that was very important. You felt as if you were a king.
Born just outside Milan in 1939, Giovanni Trappattoni signed for the Rossoneri aged only 14. He made his full debut in 1960, and over the next 12 years, the tough tackling midfielder made more than 300 appearances for the club. His years at Milan yielded 2 league titles and 2 European Cups. And after 1 year at Varese, Trappattoni the player retired in 1972. The seeds of his coaching career, though, had already been sown.
I loved seeing young players play. When I finished training for the day, I always remained on the pitch to watch the younger players, and I'd spot some of their mistakes or bad habits. And I just loved telling them how to correct those mistakes.
Trappattoni spent 4 years learning his trade under Milan coaches Niels Lidholm and Nerio Rocco. But at 37, after 1 season in charge of the first team, another club came calling: Juventus.
I knew that I needed to start from scratch if I wanted to begin a new career and gain respect. The president saw that my team, Milan, finished 3rd behind Torino and Juventus and decided to hire me. But he knew that I was already a good coach and not just a young, up-and-coming coach.
When he came in, it was like a breath of fresh air. He brought youthfulness and a new way of playing the game. We were all very happy and saw straight away that there was a good reaction from everyone.
It was this mutual enthusiasm that made us click straight away. They realized that they had a coach with a very good personality. A coach who could give clear instructions about tactics and about the transition between attack and defence and vice versa, which has always been extremely important in Italy. You need to correct any shortcomings straight away, and the players respected me and followed my instructions right from the beginning, even though I was very young.
Juventus had lost the Scudetto the year before to Torino, and so there was this great desire to react and to turn that situation around. Even more so as we had a president who was not only our president, but had been a great player at Juventus and was a big supporter of the club. And so there was no way he could stand coming second, especially as it was second behind the other team in Turin.
The pressure was on, but before the league was decided, Juventus met Spanish club Athletic Bilbao in the UEFA Cup final. Marco Tardelli's header won the first leg 1-0. 2 weeks later, Juventus hung on. A 2-1 defeat meant victory on the away goals rule and a first ever European title for the club. 4 days later, in the final league game of the season against Sampdoria, Juventus clinched the Scudetto by a single point from city rivals Torino.
In just 4 days, we could have won everything or lost everything.
It was a fight right to the end, and good fun to be involved in.
That team in 76 and 77 is the best I ever played in. And then, of course, Trapp was our coach.
He managed both the situation and the group of players very well. He was a very good man-manager.
It was just a fantastic week.
For Trappattoni, 2 trophies in his first season was just the beginning. His constant will to win defined the club.
Every Tuesday we had a technical session to analyse the match, because we know perfectly well that great champions never make mistakes, and what he tried to do during these sessions was to make these champions see the mistakes they'd made.
I would say his method was a departure from what other managers were doing at the time, especially in the way in which he involved himself in the squad.
He's always invested time in young players. He invested time in the entire squad. He spent time with me after every session and helped me out with my technique. So I'm very grateful to him for that, because it's extremely difficult to find a manager that takes that time with a young kid who is 21 or 22 years old in order to make him improve.
Trappattoni led Juventus to 3 more Scudettos over the next 5 years, and in 1982, several of his team were part of the national squad, which triumphed at the World Cup. The Juventus team needed rebuilding, though, and Trappattoni turned to 2 foreign stars. Poland's Zbigniew Boniek and Frenchman Michel Platini. Platini, in particular, proved an inspired signing. He would go on to win 3 successive Ballon d'Ors.
He was the pistol and Boniek was the bullet.
We were a very strong, a very technical team. We had several attacking players in Bonisegna, Calzio, Bettega, and then Bettega played together with Platini and Boniek. It was a great Juventus side.
The Bianconeri won the Italian Cup in 1983 and the Scudetto once again the following year. They also won the European Cup Winners' Cup against Porto. Yet despite this success, Trappattoni had his critics. He was accused of being overly defensive. He remained unmoved.
I have more of a defensive reputation than an attacking one, but that doesn't bother me, because my results speak for themselves.
To prove the point, in 1985, Juventus reached their second European Cup final in 3 years, where they faced 4-time champions Liverpool in Brussels' Heysel Stadium. The Italians won 1-0, clinching their first ever European Cup. Trappattoni became only the second man to win all 3 European club competitions. But what should have been his defining moment was clouded by tragedy, as violence before the match led to the deaths of 39 supporters.
It is a black mark in our history. We had nothing to do with it, but this sour taste remains forever, even though we got the right result out on the pitch.
The following season was Trappattoni's last in charge of Juventus. He signed off with another Scudetto. 10 years had yielded 13 trophies. He needed a new challenge, and he found it in Milan at Internazionale.
I felt as if I'd lost a father.
I wanted to show that I could win with another club. Inter had very grand plans, as it had been 12 years since they'd last won the Scudetto. 12 years. And so I gave myself a 3-year plan. It was a new challenge for me.
It would not be easy. Inter finished 3rd the following season, a decent achievement, but not what Trappattoni had been employed for. He needed to rebuild if he wanted success.
After completing our training sessions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'd then jump on a plane to scout players, guys like Matthäus and Bremer. These were players that I picked out myself. That was very important because I was therefore able to design my own team with its own character, a good mentality, and a side who could play in an intelligent way too.
Right from the start we gelled, particularly in midfield with Matthäus, who was very powerful, and on either wing. I was a striker who needed crosses to get goals, and I had Bremer on the left, he was a great player, and Sandro Bianchi, who was young but very capable of supplying me with the right ball into the box.
I'd have to say it was one of my greatest achievements as a coach from a technical point of view, but also from a managerial point of view, as big-name players decided to come to Inter simply on the basis they knew Trappattoni wanted them.
Trappattoni's 3-year plan came to fruition, as Inter won the league in 1989 by 11 points from Diego Maradona's Napoli. Two years later came their first European trophy since 1965, the UEFA Cup, beating Roma 2-1 on aggregate. Once again, Trappattoni had proved himself.
It used to be said that anyone could coach and win with Juventus. Showing that I could also win in Milan gave me great satisfaction, because it also gave me the recognition that I deserved. I worked so hard, and I was the architect of that team. It was a team made in my image, and that was very important to me.
Yet Trappattoni had never felt completely appreciated in Milan, and he returned to Juventus in 1991, winning yet another European trophy, the UEFA Cup, against Borussia Dortmund in 1993. Once again, though, he was soon seeking a fresh challenge, this time in Germany, with Bayern Munich.
I always wanted to test my ability in another league outside Italy. I then realized how difficult that was going to be. Bayern is a very big club, one of the top sides in Europe. But then Beckenbauer, Rummenigge, and Uli Hoeneß came to me and said, "Giovanni, come to us. We want you as our manager." They wanted me, and that gave me a bit of enthusiasm straight away.
It's something much bigger than just changing teams. It's changing your entire lifestyle, your friends, even your own family, because his own family has had to suffer from living far away from him. I'm a local Turin man who has never strayed far from home, so in this sense I really admire him.
But Trappattoni was unsettled, and after Bayern finished 5th, club and manager decided to call it a day. Just 12 months later, though, Munich were again looking for a coach and asked the Italian to return. Feeling he had unfinished business in Germany, Trappattoni agreed. The league title was won in 1997, along with the German League Cup.
The players had a few problems at first, but they believed in my methods. They believed in everything I said. I changed their diet and their training methods as I introduced training the Italian way.
Trappattoni's decision to return was justified, and it was in Germany when the normally affable Italian once famously lost his temper. After journalists had questioned his team selection, Trappattoni produced an outburst which he claims was a strategic performance.
Müssen sagen, yes, ich will Samstag, diese Spieler müssen zeigen mich, es sei Defense, müssen alleine das Spiel gewinnen, müssen alleine das Spiel gewinnen. Ich bin müde jetzt, erwarte diese Spieler und verteidige diese Spieler. Ich habe immer die Schuld über diese Spieler. Einer ist Mario, einer ist der andere Mehmet. Stimmt, ich spreche nicht, ich spiele nur 25% des Spiels.
There are certain situations in life when you need to raise your voice, and that press conference was one of those occasions. I deliberately raised my voice to make myself understood when I don't think they would have realized. That's why I did it, to make my point.
Aber sie gesehen Mittwoch, welche Mannschaft hat gespielt Mittwoch? Hat gespielt Mehmet, oder gespielt Balder, oder gespielt Trappattoni? Diese Spieler beklagen mehr als Spiel.
When you have tired players, you substitute them for fresher players. People are used to this now, but back then in Germany, people wanted good players to play all the time because they were famous, even if they were exhausted. And I said no, players need to perform on the pitch, whoever they are, and that is what the press conference was all about.
3 months later, Bayern Munich won the German FA Cup. 3 trophies in 2 years proved that Trappattoni could be a success out of his comfort zone of Italy.
The key is that he was always willing to talk things through. He hasn't arrived somewhere saying, I am Trappattoni, I do this or I don't do that. No. He always begins from the bottom up, making his case with humility and trying to convince the president in his beliefs, which are based on hard work and competitiveness, and obviously the affinity which he has with the people he works with.
Constant success at home and abroad eventually led to the pinnacle of any manager's career, coaching the national team.
I had the chance to manage the Italian team 10 years earlier, but I always thought that a coach must become the national coach after he has had a long career as a club coach. I took the job when I was almost 60. I said, this is the right moment for me.
He had great spirit and enthusiasm. He was a great example for all the players that were part of the national team, because he was phenomenal, and because of that enthusiasm he displayed.
Hopes were high for Italian success in the 2002 World Cup in Japan and Korea. In the second round, the Azzurri met co-hosts, South Korea.
We Italians often have conspiracy theories. But the previous day, Japan were eliminated from the competition. I said to myself, this is a bad omen.
The Italians weren't happy with what they thought was a debatable penalty. But the co-hosts missed from the spot. Then, despite taking the lead through Christian Vieri, South Korea equalized with only 2 minutes of normal time remaining.
What I saw on the pitch, I simply didn't understand. Even though I know that referees are human beings and can make mistakes like all of us. But you could see that this referee was blowing his whistle over anything and helping the home team. And that does football no favours at all.
Into extra time, and Italy were down to 10 men when Francesco Totti was sent off. South Korea struck just 3 minutes from the end to book their place in the quarter-finals, breaking Italian hearts.
I got upset with the FIFA representative when I told him, "You said that you were going to send the best, but instead you sent us someone who wasn't just making mistakes, he was making decisions that seemed to be premeditated."
By saying nothing after the game, the manager made us understand that there was no going back, that what happened had happened and we were out. I recall those images of Trappattoni hitting the bench with his fist. And then the FIFA delegate made us understand that the music of that symphony had already been composed.
Trappattoni stayed in the job until a disappointing 2004 European Championships that saw the Italians fall at the first hurdle. He was still highly sought after, and that same summer, Benfica came calling. The Italian promptly led them to the Portuguese title.
It was a great job because Porto were a very strong side. Porto were the team to beat, and we beat them. It gave me a lot of happiness because it had been 11 years since Benfica had last won the league. 11 years.
2 years later, he won the Austrian League with Red Bull Salzburg, becoming only the second coach in history to win the league title in 4 different countries.
Austria Vienna were a much stronger side. They had already won titles, and they were the finished article. To get my Salzburg team together wasn't very easy, because we needed to bring in players. Not just any players, but the right players. But then, that's what gives a coach the most satisfaction.
Approaching 70 years of age, Trappattoni still felt a failure in international management and desired the challenge once again. But this time he chose the Republic of Ireland.
We're a small country, and for us to get someone like Trappattoni, considering what he's done in the game, and to get him, from an Irish perspective was a big cue. You don't get any bigger and better than Trappattoni.
I am a person who has an instinct. This feeling has always followed me throughout my career. I have always chosen the right people. The people who want to build something starting from scratch. Managing Ireland has been a different challenge. And building this team has been a great experience. Another great experience.
Trappattoni came within a whisker of taking the Republic of Ireland to the 2010 World Cup. In the second leg of their playoff against France, Thierry Henry's handball was missed by the referee and led to a decisive goal that took the French to South Africa.
Having spent so many years in football, these things give me a little bit of bitterness.
For more than 35 years, Giovanni Trappattoni has plied his trade across Europe. He was still going strong in 2011 as the Republic of Ireland sought qualification for Euro 2012.
His enthusiasm for the game, was incredible, and I think that shines through. And that when you see the manager his age, the enthusiasm having before training, and that certainly rubs off on the players.
It is a career that has taken in 11 teams and yielded more than 20 major trophies. His record, over a sustained period, puts the Italian amongst football's greatest managers.
With Trapp, there are several factors. His tactical ability, his love of the game, the passion and desire he has for his work, and his continuous way of putting forward new arguments and accepting new challenges.
He's not a manager that gets carried away. He always works very hard. He's the type of coach who identifies with his players.
If you asked 100 people on the street, I'm sure 100 people would say he's certainly up there with the best in the world.
We were all keen to do well straight away, and a lot of us were very young. The likes of Cabrini, Gentile, myself, Shirea, all kids, happy to follow him.
Football is beautiful, and I normally use a phrase to convey this message. Football gives you happiness. Football makes you suffer, but football always gives you another chance to make up for any disappointment. I use this phrase with the players because I tell them there is joy, pain, but there's always another chance. So we need to lift our heads and carry on.